Welcome everybody to Thursday night India time for another uh, reading of Lord Meher from the online version. It's been 2.5 years. That's we've been 2 years and 1 month or so that we've been reading this. I'm very happy that you guys are here, and whoever else joins in. I find that sometimes some beautiful messages come through this book. And Baba had said that Lord Meher was very, very special to him and close to his heart. And a lot of effort has gone into this book with several volumes. And we are reading from page number 1881. We left um, at this page last week. So I shall begin reading this. Uh, Nasik and Khans. On the 12th, Baba allowed a Christian minister on board to meet him. The minister was reading Rom Landau's book, God is My Adventure, and pointed out a chapter about Baba in it. The following exchange then took place. The minister began by stating, Mohammedans say that Jesus was wrong in what he said about being the Son of God. Baba replied, do you believe Muhammad could ever speak like that about Jesus? So they say. Who? Books. Ah, books. Did Muhammad write these? I don't know, but in Mohammedan literature, it is written like that, and there are many other allegations against Christianity. But people may say or write anything. How can you blame Muhammad for that? Because they are his followers. You are a follower of Jesus. Suppose God forbid you make some serious, scroll up please,
Sorry.
mistake or do something wrong, would people hold Jesus responsible for that? Because you are his follower and a minister. It is thus that masters and prophets are always misunderstood through misinterpretation of their teachings by their over enthusiastic followers. Such statements about Jesus being in the wrong can never happen, being made by Muhammad. If he did, he wouldn't be a prophet. It is the disciples and followers who, after death of the prophet, present their teachings to the world according to their own impressions and understanding. These interpretations of the followers invariably vary, sometimes quite contrary to the spirit of the master's teaching. If a lecturer speaks today before a gathering of 500 and the same subject is repeated by the 500 listeners to the others, there would be 500 different interpretations, some never dreamed of by the speaker. So, what about the teachings of masters like Jesus interpreted after him, perhaps 1,000 times through different interpreters in the past? The original thought is sometimes lost sight of or made irrelevant, but yet each clings to his own different interpretation as the original. That's why so many people hesitate to believe in the Bible and other such books whose interpretations do not appeal to them. There is more of the writers in the Bible than of Christ. Thus, it is that we are always quarrels between fanatic followers of different religions over words and explanations that the prophets never uttered. But where? sorry, but were written in the Holy Scriptures by over enthusiastic disciples and priests, which quite naturally creates a revolt in the minds of others. Next page, please.
Coming.
Thank you. So, before we move to the next page, I just wanted to share that I was in Merazad this time, and K, KC or KT, I think KC showed, was showing us Baba's room. So when you enter Baba's room, there's a bed there where Baba used to lie down, and on the right side there was some of his posters, and there was a very beautiful picture of Jesus wearing this white robe, and there was this lady sitting down, looking towards him, maybe asking for forgiveness. So we were told that that photograph, somebody had given it to Mera, and Mera shows it to Baba. And then she tells Baba, "Isn't it lovely? Like it looks like she's asking for forgiveness or repentance." So Baba points out to the picture of Jesus in that in the photograph or painting, and he says, "I am that. I am that." And then he had blessed that photograph, and he had asked her to frame it. So when you go in the room, there are actually two uh, and there's one more big picture of Jesus which is there, uh, along other Baba photos that were found in the room. I don't know, we were talking about Jesus, so I thought I'll just share that. So the priest asked, "Do you, as a master, impose any penance as a penalty for sins committed, as is done in our religion when people go to church and the priest and ask for forgiveness?" I'm just going to read that. The priest asked, "Do you, as a master, impose any penance as a penalty for the sins committed, as is done in our religion when people go to church and the priest and ask for forgiveness for their sins?" I mean, I just spoke about that photograph, and here we have this. The Baba answered, "The more thought and act of admission of one's own sins, sincerely done, and a promise to try sorry, unfortunately I'm not able to see the words. Okay, now it's come back. The the mere thought and act of admission of one's own sins, if sincerely done, and a promise to try never to do it again, is enough. Even if no penance is made, besides, the masters have their own ways of exacting penances. But is an actual act of penance considered necessary as required by society? Baba explained, it depends on the master's will and intention. Sometimes he does impose very strict penance, say of fast, or humility,
Mona, you're breaking
or
up too much.
I think we should
in low position. Or sometimes he might
go on to the next person.
yeah.
Yeah, I don't
Then
even think
maybe
you can hear us.
Marvin, can you continue reading from here? Thank
We
you.
can't, we couldn't hear the last paragraph. I think we just need to move on to the next person.
Yeah, just pick another reader.
Yeah.
Or any volunteers.
I can read.
Okay. Go ahead, Eva.
Oh, okay. I'll start from the top, page 1882. The priest asked, "Do you, as a master, impose any penance as a penalty for sins committed, as is done in our religion, when people go to church and the priest and ask forgiveness for their sins?" Baba answered, "The mere thought and act of admission of one's own sins, if sincerely done, and a promise to try never to do it again is enough, even if no penance is made. Besides, the masters have their own ways of exacting penances. But is an actual act of penance considered necessary as required by Christianity? Baba explained, it depends on the master's will and instructions. Sometimes he does impose very strict penance, say of a fast or an act of humility or of service to others in a lower position. Or sometimes he might forgive it outright and ask the accused to forget all about it after he has made an honest confession and clean breast of it. When Baba had boarded the Circassia, he had glanced at the other passengers and remarked to Norina, one sincere soul will be found among the many. But he also cautioned her not to reveal his identity to anyone on board. On 18 November, however, Baba gave Norina permission to give an interview about him to a group of interested passengers whose curiosity she could not suppress. Chanji attended also to answer questions. More than a dozen persons gathered in a quiet corner of the deck to hear of Baba. Baba gave this message for that small group of passengers, which he had dictated 2 days before. Truth is infinitely simple. So is its realization naturally simple too. Complications are not natural to unity because duality is based on complications. Books, philosophies, and different terms all lead to confusion and contradiction, if not applicable to one's spiritual tendency. God realization means living in and with God in every thought and action, with such oneness as to render it automatic, divinely and consciously automatic. When you are asleep or awake, conscious or unconscious, eating or not eating, with people or alone, amidst activities or in seclusion, your breathing is automatically in and with you. So must God be in and with you, automatically, but consciously so, in every phase of your life. It is to be simple, practical, and livable in the ordinary run of life.
Takes me a minute, sorry. Okay.
No worries. Belief, trust, and faith are all illusory phenomena, if not based on conviction through personal experience. Ignorant souls seek faults and weaknesses in others without first finding their own defects. And for some, it is a lifelong job to ridicule knowledge when unattainable. The apparent is not real. Under many a life's complicated problems are hidden some of the simplest truths, which the veil of ignorance obscures from human vision. So don't trouble to believe in ignorance, and do not also bother about believing in me. Be prepared to believe in yourself, of being able to long for truth. Then will you know truth in its pure, infinite simplicity. Afterward, one woman came up to Norina and pleaded with her for an interview with Baba, which he granted the same day. The woman, Isabella Paul, of Transvaal, South Africa, was the wife of a gold mine supervisor. She was on her way from England, determined to find God in Tibet. For years, she had longed to come to India and was headed for the Himalayas. Scroll down, please. Upon hearing Norina speak Meher Baba's name, Isabella instinctively knew she had found what she had been looking for all those years. She was the one to whom Baba was referring when he had boarded the ship. Baba told her, "Not in Tibet, but in yourself will you find God." Isabella saw Baba almost daily for the rest of the voyage and remarked, "He has told me so much in a practical way that will last for the rest of my life. In meeting one like Baba, all questing ceases." Baba also met a few of the other passengers on board who expressed their desire to meet him. And here we have a picture of Baba leaning on a rail on the ship on board the Circassia, November 1937. After leaving Marseille, Baba had begun giving baths to Mohammed in his cabin's bathroom. This was no simple or easy task. It would take hours to bathe the must. It usually took 1 hour just to take off his sandals. Every time Baba would try, Mohammed would kick his feet. Protesting the entire time, Mohammed would allow his sandals to be taken off, only very, very hesitatingly. Likewise, while undressing him and again putting his clothes back on after the bath, and again making him put on his sandals, it was a battle all the way. Although Baba's health was suffering, he nevertheless would pamper Muhammad's whims and moods for hours on end. Baba explained once that he was like the must's mother, so to serve a must in this way was a profound joy for Baba. He was always happiest among the God-intoxicated. There was some engine trouble, which caused the ship to lose speed one day, and Baba sent Norina to Captain W. Gemmell of Glasgow to inquire when they would reach Bombay. Norina first talked with him about general topics and then casually asked, "By the way, when will we be reaching Bombay?" The captain told her, and she returned to tell Baba. He sent her back to ask the same question again. Upon her return, Baba sent her to the captain once more. Finally, the captain's frustration erupted. "Madam, what is wrong with you? You keep coming to me with the same question. Can't you remember what I have told you?" When Norina informed Baba about it, he sent her once again with the same inquiry. This time it was too much for the captain, and Norina retreated in embarrassed silence. What could she say? Even if the captain had swore at her, she knew it was nothing compared to the importance of obeying the master's order. Again, Baba directed Norina, "For my work, I must reach Bombay as soon as possible. Go ask the captain if there is any way the ship can reach Bombay earlier than scheduled." To avoid this confrontation, Norina said, "Baba, the poor man is already so exasperated with me." But Baba replied, "You have no idea. I have very important work waiting for me in Meherabad. So do your part to help me in this. Request the captain to speed up the ship's engines so that we will arrive in Bombay ahead of time. Reluctantly, Narina strode to the captain's quarters. Seeing her, the captain became quite irritated. Narina stood absolutely quiet, her heart beating in trepidation, and after a while, she asked what she had been sent to ask. The captain was furious. To arrive earlier? Out of the question. Narina returned in turmoil. Observing Narina's exchanges with Baba, Chanji was most sympathetic, as during previous voyages, he had been made to pass through similar ordeals. Now it was Narina's turn. Early Saturday morning, 20 November 1937.
Sorry.
Oh, that's okay.
Oh, is this right?
I don't think I finished.
I wondered if we should change readers at this point. How are you doing?
Sure, that's fine. I'll finish this last sentence. Early Saturday morning, 20 November 1937, the Circassia docked in Bombay, very much on schedule. Okay, next reader.
Eugene, how about you?
All righty. Padre in Sarosha's Chevrolet Tukaram with Colin God in the Pontiac, and Adi Sr. met Baba and the group in Bombay. Padre was instructed to drive Narina, Kitty, and Rano to Pune, where he was to take them around the city and then bring them to Meherabad. Sunamasi and Walu went in their car also. Baba, along with the other women Mandali, promptly proceeded to Meherabad, only staying in Bombay a brief time to refresh themselves. Adi took delivery of Elizabeth's Ford, which she had brought back from France, and he drove it to Meherabad after dropping Goher in Pune. A truck was hired for the luggage, and Chanji accompanied it to Meherabad. After a great deal of difficulty clearing all 75 pieces of luggage through customs. At Baba House in Pune, Padre reintroduced Narina, Kitty, and Rano to Memo. So I think last week in the reading, Padre and, oh no, never mind. Padre reintroduced Narina, Kitty, and Rano to Memo. He then drove them along Ferguson Road, where the Japti had been, and where Baba gathered his first disciples at Kasba Peth. After giving them a tour of other significant places connected with Baba, Padre brought them to Meherabad that night. Baba was awaiting their arrival on the hill. As soon as they came up, he took them to their living quarters. Their sparsely furnished room, called the West Room of the water tank building, contained nothing more than 3 beds, 3 chairs, and 1 cracked mirror. It was an austere change from what they had been used to at the MEHER retreat in Nasik. Baba had warned them in Nasik, "I will gradually take away all your comforts." And his words were now coming true. Baba assigned duties to Kitty in the kitchen, to Rano in preparing charts and working on the 10 circles painting, and to Narina in writing. Kitty was also to teach English to Naja and Khorshed. Rano was in the habit of getting up late, as she would often go to bed late. But in Meherabad, the others were awake by 5 a.m. and tea was served at 5:30 a.m. One day, soon after arriving, Baba asked Naja to call Rano to the kitchen. Rano was sleeping at the time and Naja woke her up. Rano rubbed the sleep out of her eyes, put on a robe, and accompanied Naja to the kitchen. A kettle of water was boiling on the stove, and pointing to it, Baba gestured to her. "Listen to how sweetly the kettle is singing." It'd be great to see those gestures. Rano stood quietly, but thought, "What is this? I have been called to listen to a kettle boil?" Seeing her expression, Baba spelled out, "It is not the fact of the kettle singing that is of importance, but that I thought of you, that I thought to call you." When Narina, Kitty, and Rano began staying at Meherabad, Baba ordered them again not to mention the name of any man in front of the Eastern women mandali, and similarly, not to mention any of their names in front of the men. The same instructions had been given them earlier when they would visit Meherabad from the Nasik ashram. One day, while Baba, Rano, and Vishnu were discussing a matter, Rano mentioned Mani's name by mistake. Baba became upset and scolded her. "Never commit such a fault again. Don't you remember what I told you? Don't you listen to me when I give you certain instructions? Or don't you take it seriously?" As age noted, Baba kept the women mandali completely secluded, most of all for Mehera's sake. It was necessary to keep Mehera secluded for Baba's inner work with creation. Mehera was the queen of the garden, and her example of service to the beloved nourished the other saplings in the garden.
Marvin, why don't you take over now?
After Baba's return from France, he was occupied in his must and mad work in Lower Meherabad. Ramju and Kakabaria arrived for a meeting of the trust at Meherabad on Monday, the 29th November 1937, which Narina also attended. Baba had given Kitty duties in the kitchen. While she tried to teach Naja English, Naja was teaching her cooking. The work was difficult for Kitty, as Indian meals vary greatly from Western fare, and much is involved in preparing them. Kitty had to sit for hours by the smoking kerosene stove, learning to make chapatis. One day, Kitty was thinking sadly, "I haven't come to India for this. I can do such work at home. I've come to be with Baba, but I hardly see him." That very evening, while conversing with the women, Baba remarked, as if for Kitty, "Whatever work I ask you to do is my work, and she who does it according to my wish is performing the greatest penance. Compared to it, meditation, seclusion, fast, and austerities are nothing. Kitty took Baba's words to heart and proved most useful for his work. The strenuous work she did for him, while remaining with him in India for years, and then at a distance in America for many years, is an example of her unflinching sense of duty and obedience. Meanwhile, Baba maintained a constant stream of correspondence with those lovers in Europe and America who had not returned to India. Baba's sweet words seemed to lift their spirits and bridge the distance between themselves and their beloved. In one letter on 15 December 1937 to the group in England, Baba wrote, "Talking of Europe the other evening, I said there were three things that I liked: Kimco, Assisi, and Portofino. So you need never fear that Kimco will slip from its very precious place in my heart." In a letter to Donkin on 8 December, Kitty wrote, "Baba told this interesting fact the other day, that all four aspects of four great avatars were embodied in the present avataric period. The Buddha, with his poise, peace, calm exterior, and renunciation, is present in all avatars, whether it shows externally or not. Today, however, the work of the avatar has to be active. He is Muhammad in his strict discipline with the boys, the mandali, Krishna in his life up here with the group, the women, and Jesus in his work with the madmen, the musts, washing them, feeding them, healing, etc. at the dispensary. During 1927, Kalingad had come from Persia to India for his high school education in the MEHER ashram. He became one of Baba's favorite boys and was very conscientious with his duties at Meherbad. Baba allowed him to join the men mandali, and Kalingad carried out his duties with love and full faith in the master. He did not wish to leave Baba and return to Persia, but being a Persian citizen, he was drafted into the army and was forced to obey the country's law or be arrested. Kalingad wept profusely before Baba, who comforted him. "I am always with you. Keep me always with you." After staying with Meher Baba for 10 years, Kalingad departed for Persia with tears in his eyes. The men mandali also regretted his departure. Kalingad never saw Baba again, as he died a few years later in Persia. On Sunday, December 19th, Dake came to see Baba at Meherbad. Baba came down the hill, and after discussing certain matters with Pendu and Daki, he stood and walked hurriedly to the must ashram. Masaji handed him a broom. Baba rolled up his sleeves and pajamas and went directly to the inmates' toilets. You want to read the footnote?
There were no flush toilets or septic tanks, only a tin pan at the bottom of a hole inside a makeshift stall. Normally, the servants cleaned them for the men and women mandali, but Baba himself would often clean them for the musts and mad.
He removed the pan from inside, carried it a distance, emptied it in a pit, scoured it with a broom, and poured disinfectant in it. Baba then put the pan back so that the toilet area was sanitary and left for the bathing room, where Muhammad Mus was being coaxed into taking a bath. Muhammad only relented after he was promised another voyage in 1 month. Dr. Gadi, who was witnessing all this with the others, quipped, "Baba is so energetic. I feel tired of just watching him." Baba replied, "I enjoy being active in this way. I like to clean the toilets of the god-mad and bathe and feed them, much more than when I am bowed down to by my disciples or have the arti done before me. Are not these souls helpless? To serve them is real service. To feed them is real philanthropy. To look after them is real humanity. And to keep them pleased is really pleasing God.
Oh, okay. Well, I guess I'll take a turn at this point. 18, page 1888, Nasik and Khan, 1937. Invited to Navsari and Nagpur in December, Baba left Meherabad at 6 in the morning for Taligaon on Monday, 20th December 1937, driven by Adi Sr. in Saroj's Chevrolet. Narina, Gustaji, and a new boy named Gajanand, whom Jalbai had found at the Ahmednagar railway station, accompanied them. Footnote. Chanji had been sent to Navsari as soon as they landed in India to make arrangements. In Khan, Baba had informed Narina, "We shall return to India, and there I want you to join me on a trip through certain cities. I want you to see me at work there, as you have seen me at work here." On the way, they stopped in Pune at Baba's family's house, where they were met by Memo, Adi Jr., Behram, and his wife Perrine. Baba showed Narina the room upstairs at Bopla House, where he used to seclude himself, and the room at Baba House, where he used to bang his head on the stone flooring. He remarked, "One day men from all parts of the world will come here on pilgrimage." In Taligaon, Baba met Ramju's and Gani's families and Amina and Abdullah Jafar. Ghani had arranged a bhajan program by a local singer, which many attended. It went on the whole night, and Baba did not have much rest. Wow, is that a beautiful photo? Ooh. Amina Jafar had gone to Mecca on pilgrimage and had brought back this Arab robe and headdress, which she requested Baba to wear. Ooh, that's an amazing photo. Leaving Taligaon at 7 a.m. the next morning, the group arrived in Bombay at 9:30, where preparations for giving darshan were being made at Naroji Dadachanji's house. Baba also allowed free darshan at Kakabaria's sister's home, where he was staying. After eating lunch at Alamai Katrak's, who lived downstairs in the same building, Baba went to Naroji's and met his Bombay lovers, who were very close in his love. From the very early days, Age said in admiration, wine had entered their souls, and the song was being sung in their hearts. Naval Talati saw Baba at this time and informed Baba that Pleader was suffering internally from being away from him. Baba sent this message to Pleader, who was staying in another area of Bombay. "I suffer every second of my life untold tortures. You have to share. It is now the last phase. When you see me again, you will see me in my true form." Pleader was given orders to leave on a begging tour and then to stay in the Panchgani cave. In the afternoon, Baba ordered Chanji not to allow anyone inside the house, as he wanted to rest. Homi, Mama Safa, and his wife Pila, who lived in Bombay, came to see Baba with their children, Alu, Dun, Naval, and Roshan. As instructed, Chanji stopped them. Baba saw this from his room. He came out and, taking Chanji to task, scolded, "Why do you prevent them from coming inside? Don't you know who they are? They are part of the Sathas of Ahmednagar. Let them come in." Baba visited with them in his room. Roshan was just a baby, and Baba held her on his lap. He assured Homi that he would look after the children and not to worry about them. Baba handed Roshan to Homi Mama's sister, Banumasi Karawala, who was also present. No one then could understand the significance, lying behind this seemingly simple gesture of Baba's. But later, when Roshan married Banu Masi's son Sam, they recalled this incident and understood its meaning. Alu, Dun, and Naval had all been struck with muscular dystrophy, and Homi was afraid that Roshan too would be afflicted with it. But before he could mention this, Baba comforted him, indicating Roshan would be spared. Baba gave Dun and Naval each a rose to eat, and the family left happily. During the Darshan program in Bombay on 21st December 1937, a finely dressed young man was standing in line weeping. When he approached Baba, he embraced him forcefully and fell at his seat sobbing. Baba stopped the Darshan queue, looked into the youth's eyes, and asked, "Did you carry out all my orders?" The young man could not say a word. Baba repeated the question, looking displeased. He spelled out, "An order is much more important than any amount of spiritual longing or gifts of thousands of rupees." Asking two women present to leave the room, Baba explained to him about sex. There are 7 kinds and colors of sanskaras. Red is the worst and the deepest. It is the most lasting impression and takes the longest to be wiped out. These red sanskaras are caused by the sex act. Hence, they are a great check on the progress and advancement. The sex act is considered a grave sin on the path and prohibited to spiritual aspirants. Thoughts of sexual desire may come, and even a rush of impulses, but one should not commit any action with another person. Even self-pollution, masturbation is better, although it is bad in a physical way. Sexual intercourse has the worst consequences. It attracts to oneself the worst sanskaras of ages past of one's partner. Hence, it is most difficult to wipe out. It incurs incredible damage to one's spiritual progress. The young man knew what Baba meant and moved on. The darshan continued until the late afternoon. In the evening, Baba went to see a film, a comedy titled Topper, at the Palace Theater. Meanwhile, Minu Desai arrived in Bombay to escort Baba to Navsari. He and Baba boarded the Flying Rani train at 6 in the evening on the 22nd, accompanied by 8 persons: Kakabaria, Homi Batena, Rao Sahib, Adi Sr., Gustaji, Chanji, Gajanand, and Norina. Footnote. Rao Sahib had met Baba at Meherabad at the end of November 1937. He had taken a teaching job in Bombay. Baba wished him to return to Meherabad, but Rao Sahib was disinclined. In the train, when Narina was discussing some spiritual topic with the others, Baba interrupted and expounded on sanskaras. Today, I will give you some very new facts concerning sanskaras. Truly, no philosophical books explain the term properly. Sanskaras are impressions of duality which make the soul go through the process of duality to attain unity with God. The soul cannot attain unity consciously unless it goes through conscious experiences of duality. And these experiences of duality cannot be had but by impressions of duality. Sanskaras in general are called Prarabdha sanskaras. Prarabdha literally means of destiny. These are applied to the whole universe in evolutions from the state of a minute atom to the state of God realization. Prarabdha sanskaras are those that help the soul gain consciousness in order to go through evolution from the very beginning to the very end to attain unity. For the realized soul who does not return to normal consciousness, these are no sanskaras. But the soul who, after God realizations, returns to normal consciousness automatically gets a universal mind. And to be able to work through duality gets superfluous, unbinding sanskaras that are called yoga sanskaras. The literal meaning of yoga is automatic. Very few perfected souls have these yoga sanskaras because very few of the God realized return to normal consciousness, to phenomenal consciousness. There's another footnote here. In Chanji's original transcription, the term written was yoga, but Baba later corrected it to yoga sanskaras. Now the avatar being one always and having his circle of 120 always, the same each time, this avatar gives to his circle the Vijnani sanskaras. Vijnani literally means the threshold to unity. The avatar, when taking form for himself and the circle, gives himself and the circle the Vijnani sanskaras beforehand, before birth. It is similar to a veil being drawn, and exactly at the time appointed by himself, the avatar experiences his original divinity and then works with the Vijnani sanskaras. I think I'll stop at this point. Let's see. Mona, do you want to, I don't know if you want to, let's go to Eugene.
Homie Mama, the top circle until they are realized are under this veil of Vijnani sanskaras, having all the ordinary signs of the ordinary sanskaras of duality. When the time comes, the avatar gives the circle realization. However, until then, the Vijnani sanskaras, though they remain with the person, are only an instrument for universal work, just as his have been. Much of Christ's teaching in New Testament is symbolic, if rightly understood. Christ talked of evolution, impressions, reincarnation, exactly as in Vedanta. The prarabdha impressions, which govern the whole universe of duality, are of greed and its opposite, of anger and its opposite, of all bad and of all good thoughts, words, and deeds. Good sanskaras, bad sanskaras, both are prarabdha. To be free from prarabdha sanskaras, either the good sanskaras must overlap the bad sanskaras, the individual ego must be annihilated by service, or the limited self must merge in love. Good sanskaras and bad sanskaras are impressions, and both bind. Due to evolutionary process, the soul gathers all sanskaras throughout, up to the human form. Animal sanskaras, as they are called. Therefore, in human form, where the soul is fully conscious, the bad sanskaras already overlap the good ones. If now the good sanskaras were to overlap the bad ones, what would happen is that both would disappear. Like the dream example I once gave you, or like the dream example I once gave. Suppose you see yourself in a dream in which you enjoy being a queen, and it continues for a long time. If all of a sudden you see a dream of a snake attacking you, you wake up. Both the good and bad dreams disappear. Here, it was good at first of enjoying becoming a queen, and then the bad of a snake attacking you. This is bad overlapping good. Both disappear on waking. So either the bad must overlap the good, or the good overlap the bad. But if already the soul has gathered impressions of greed, of anger, of lust, now they must be overlapped by their opposites: generosity, love, and peace. In the second instance of service, when you think not of yourself, but of others, the thought about your own ego is replaced by thinking of others, and gradually you forget yourself in serving others. In the third instance, love, when the lover loves the beloved to the extent of losing the self in the beloved, then only the beloved remains. So naturally, impressions then disappear. It is so easy to do bad and so difficult to do good. Why? Because bad is already there. Returning to the first point, I will give you two examples of good overlapping the bad, of bad overlapping the good, and how both disappear. A dish is dirty. You take soap and water and overlap the dirt with soap. Then in washing it, both disappear. Here the water is you. You are always present in the process of overlapping. The Indian way of cleaning a dish full of grease is with mud. Without water, it will come clean. Both grease and mud disappear. In the overlapping of opposites, mud is the most greaseless thing, therefore opposite. The object is for both to disappear and attain a clean dish. When good sanskaras overlap the bad and bad sanskaras overlap the good, then both disappear, and your mind is a clean slate with nothing written on it. All is wiped off. Nothing is ever written on you, but on your mind. You, the soul, remain untarnished. Good and bad, everything is written on your mind. When the impressions go, then all is wiped out. Mind sees the soul. This is illumination. When good and bad are written off the mind, mind sees the soul. Mind then tries to become one with the soul. This is realization. Mind seeing the soul means you seeing God. But mind does not become you, you being God. Mind must merge in the soul. When mind merges in soul, then you are God realized.
Okay, thanks, Eugene. Mona, did you want to try to read?
I'll try later. Maybe now Marvin could read.
Okay, Marvin?
The train approached Navsari very late at night. Before it entered the station, Baba suddenly recalled on his alphabet board all the names of the different members of the Desai family. It was as if he were greeting them ahead in some unfathomable way before entering the outer details of their lives and personal problems. A small group of the Desai family met them at the train station, and Baba embraced each one. He was taken to the Desai residence, where the rest of the family stood in line to meet him. Baba asked about Sorabji, the famous elderly writer, Soma Desai, who was critically ill. Baba was taken to his room before doing anything else. Baba comforted the old man and embraced him. Standing before Sorabji, it was as if Baba had dropped a veil over the closing act of that life. Baba then snapped his fingers and signaled it was time to go. A darshan program was to be held the next day. Sorabji was intent on offering Shastang Namaskar, lying prone before the master's feet at the time of the darshan. Baba acquiesced to his prayer on condition that he should only come when called. Everyone was up at 5:30 a.m. the next morning, Thursday, 23 December 1937. Baba visited Sorabji and asked how he had rested. The marriage between Sorabji's nephew Minu and his niece Papai, whose betrothal Baba had performed in Nasik, was about to take place. But all in the family were worried by Sorabji's deteriorating condition. Baba ordered them to call off the wedding feast, to which 300 guests had been invited, and directed them to perform the wedding ceremony soon. Minu's father wanted the marriage to be celebrated with great pomp, which would have necessitated many days to arrange. But Baba advised him to invite only a few to a simple ceremony held as soon as possible. A public darshan program was held in Navsari that day, and many came for the occasion. Sorabji's niece, Mansari, was deeply affected by Baba's love and was literally drowned in it. Baba's visit at this time was chiefly concerned with Mansari, for her time to join his ashram had come. During the darshan, Sorabji was brought into Baba's presence. He offered his wholehearted obeisance to the master by stretching himself full length, face down on the floor at Baba's feet. Age was touched. Who had any idea that this was Sorabji's final farewell and last namaskar to the beloved? Baba had fulfilled his promise given just years before when Sorabji had asked Baba to give him his darshan just before he breathed his last, to which Baba had agreed. After the darshan, Baba ordered Sorabji to rest in bed and not to move. Baba left Navsari at 7 o'clock the next morning. Before leaving, Mansari told Narina to tell Baba to call her soon. For good, Narina asked. Mansari nodded, yes, for good. Rao Sahib was ordered to get down from the train at the town of Golvad and visit a family of leopards. Rao Sahib was to join the group in Bombay that evening. Baba felt hungry on the train, and they purchased some snacks. They arrived in Bombay at 11 a.m. and went to Kaka's sister's apartment. Jalbai had come from Ahmednagar bringing the Christmas mail and telegrams. Baba went to Naroji's for lunch and stopped at the telegraph office to send cables to Europe and America. Baba remarked to Naroji, "I won't be coming back to Bombay for a long time." In the afternoon, Baba returned to Kaka's before going to visit Dina Talati's sister at Santa Cruz. He then visited Gustaji's cousin and also Pudamchi's daughter, Silla. Seeming to relax, at 3 o'clock Christmas afternoon, Baba went to see a film, The Life of Emile Zola, starring Paul Muni at the Path Theater. But he seemed totally absent during it. Narina noticed Baba working and saw flashes of light visible in his eyes in the darkness. They left Bombay at 6:30 that evening for Nagpur, traveling third class in the train. Jalbai had joined the group from Bombay. They reached Nagpur. They reached Nagpur at 9:30 on the morning of the 26th December 1937, and were met at the station by Papa Jaswala and his son Erich, Jal Karawala, and Dr. Deshmukh. Baba rode in the Jaswala's car with some of the Mandali. The rest followed in another car to the Jaswala's grand residence called Mary Lodge. Guy May and her two daughters were waiting for Baba, standing in the doorway. Immediately as Baba entered, they embraced him and prostrated, touching their foreheads to his feet. Then they performed arti, breaking coconuts at Baba's feet and tossing flowers and sprinkling scented water everywhere. Baba retired to the main bedroom. After a quick bath and breakfast, interviews began. Deshmukh and his wife Indumati were also staying at the Jaswalas during Baba's 3-day visit. He had brought his fellow professors and students for Baba's darshan. Deshmukh delivered a short speech, and Indumati sang Baba's arti. Baba granted an interview to two of Deshmukh's students, Sushila and Vimala. Another student named Dinesh Nandini Cordia was particularly drawn to Baba. Her father was also a professor, and she wrote poetry. Shortly thereafter, Baba gave a bath to a very poor Hindu boy who was mad. After being dressed in new clothes, the boy became excited and jumped around and threw his arms around Baba. Baba held him for a good while and then ordered that the boy be kept in the house night and day during his visit. He also instructed Papa Jaswala to bring the boy to Meherabad in April. Later, a professor of philosophy and comparative religion came and asked many questions, which Baba answered. Baba remarked after he left, "His mind has made a simple thing difficult through ignorance. This is philosophy." At 11:30, Baba ate lunch in his room with the boy Gajananad, as he would always do during the trip. In the afternoon, he sat surrounded by the Jaswala children and threw sweets to them, looking in one direction and throwing in another. At 1:30, he drove to Deshmukh's house. After an hour there, Papa took Baba on a tour of Nagpur. They returned home at 4 o'clock, and another darshan was held at 7 that evening. Here we have a photo with some of the participants. On December 27th, Baba again bathed the mad boy, who, despite his mental affliction, responded with happiness to Baba. After playing with the boy, Baba answered his mail and granted interviews. In the afternoon, Papa drove Baba, Jal Karawala, Jalbai, and Narina to Dinesh Cordia's for tea. On the way, while passing a swimming pool, Baba humorously asked Jal Karawala, "Do you know how to swim?" Jal replied affirmatively. Baba continued, "Well, one day you will swim in the infinite ocean of love. I am that ocean of love." Later, while passing the mansion of a foreign magnate, Baba remarked regarding the obvious ostentation. Lust wants possessions. Love gives possessions. A large public darshan was held in the evening at the Jesawala's bungalow. Erich had previously been connected with the Ramakrishna ashram in Nagpur. The head Swami of the ashram was Bhaskareshwar Ananda, and he attended the darshan. A renowned saint with large battery. Oops, my battery's gone. With renowned saint with a large following named Tukdoji Maharaj also attended. Tukdoji sang heartfelt bhajans before Baba and was gratified at having his darshan. Swami Bhakareshwar Ananda had come full of questions, but being in Meher Baba's presence, he completely forgot what he had wanted to ask. He quietly sat by Baba, and tears began flowing from his eyes. He internally received the answers to his questions, and his heart became full with divine love. Before leaving, he remarked, "I have had Ramakrishna's darshan today." Hundreds came for Baba's darshan that evening, among whom was the wife of a prominent judge. Her guru had advised her, go to Nagpur for the darshan of the Kalanki avatar.
Footnote: Kalanki, another name for the white horse avatar, means the divine incarnation belonging to the present Kali Yuga, which is the last of the 4 yugas or ages and the longest. Each yuga comprises millions of years and hundreds of avataric incarnations.
When she approached Baba, the women cried out, "Kalanki avatar, Kalanki avatar." Those who saw her were taken aback, wondering if she was a Mastani, a female must. She threw herself at Baba's feet and exclaimed, "The object of my life is fulfilled today. I have had the darshan of the Kalanki avatar." The woman went away in tears, but they were tears of joy.
Sorry, it's not stubborn. It's not moving.
There we go.
I'll read from your mouth. Thanks.
Okay, go ahead. Yes.
Yeah. During his stay in Nagpur, Baba frequently sent Kaka to the railway station to bring any telegrams that might have been received for him, presumably expecting one from Navsari regarding Sorabji. Baba was thus remembering the old man in his dying moments and thereby enabling him to drink wine. Meenu and Bapai's wedding was performed in Navsari on the 27th. The couple then went to Sorabji for his blessings, which he gave. 20 minutes later, he had a vision and saw Baba in a glorious form standing before him. Then he merged with his vision. Baba had kept Sorabji alive for this wedding. And as soon as it was over, he drowned him in his ocean of love and infinitude. Baba received news of Sorabji passing the next day. As the telegram was being read out, Baba happily remarked, "Isn't that good? Well done." As if congratulating himself, he had this message sent to the family. "Sorabji has come to me and is happy." As mentioned, Soma Desai was an eminent figure in Gujarati literature. He was the author of 100 books and a noteworthy contributor of articles and essays on spirituality and journals, newspapers, and periodicals. Scroll up, please. Thank you. Later that day, Baba visited the Theosophical Society and also an institute for blind boys. To the Theosophists gathered, Baba said, I give my blessings to you so that you may long more and more to finally realize the truth through experience. Baba granted more interviews later that morning and at 3 o'clock went to the home of a wealthy merchant. The reception there was unusually solemn and restrained. Baba sat next to the host for just a few minutes and then left. Afterward, Norina questioned him as to why he had gone there. Baba answered in a matter of fact manner, the man is seriously ill. I went there to help him. Jai Jal Kerawala and Erach both received much personal attention in Nagpur, which kept them always drawn toward Baba. Jal was intoxicated with wine of Baba's love, and he dedicated himself fully to the master. His drunkenness made him work hard in the beloved's cause, and he was to prove most useful for Baba's work in times to come. Eric's plans were to study engineering in Banaras, but the master had plans for him. Next page, and Marcia, if you are online, would you like to read?
Mona, the audio is breaking
Okay,
up again.
I think we need to move
all
on to
right.
the reader. Eva, how about you?
Sure. The entire Jesawala family was drenched in Baba's love, and Galmay longed to stay with him permanently. The garments of their lives were soaked in the beloved's wine. Wearing such heavy clothing, how could they go anywhere except along the way which leads to his feet, which only those drenched in his love can tread? And we have a beautiful picture here of Baba, Nagpur, 1937. Baba left Nagpur for Meherabad on Tuesday, 28 December 1937 at 8:40 p.m. On the train, he stretched out on a bench, completely concealing himself under a blanket all through the evening, withdrawing internally to do his inner work. At 5 a.m., he was up, and at 7 a.m., they reached Manmad, where Adi Sr. arrived in his Chevrolet to drive them to Meherabad. Chanji, Rao Sahib, and Kaka continued on the same train to Bombay, and Baba, Adi Sr., Jalbhai, Gustaji, Gajanand, and Narina proceeded to Meherabad. Along the way, Baba suddenly felt hungry and ordered the car stopped. A packed lunch given to them in Nagpur was eaten under the shade of an ancient banyan tree by the side of the road. After resting for a while, Baba enjoyed a game of dice with the men. A very poor man was walking on the road, and Baba noticed him and stopped the game, ordering Adi to give the poor man the remainder of the food. It was given to him with these words: Shri Sadguru Meher Baba is the giver. The man humbly replied, "It is my good fortune to be fed by him." After driving on, along the way, Baba pointed to a house and remarked, "Upasni Maharaj is currently visiting there." Later, Baba pointed out Kedgaon village to Narina, where Narayan Maharaj lived. They arrived back at Meherabad at noon on the 29th. On his
sorry. Go. Yeah, I was going to. You should continue. I think Eva.
Okay. On his return, Baba discussed with Pendu the building of a few new buildings at Upper Meherabad, his future tomb, meditation cells, a second story on the water tank, a maternity home, and a wall around the compound. Preparations for the celebration of Baba's 44th birthday began in January 1938, and Pendu was also fully occupied in making lodging and boarding arrangements for the hundreds of devotees who had been invited for the occasion. This time, the out-of-town women were to be given separate accommodations on Meherabad Hill and the men in Lower Meherabad. On Wednesday, 12 January 1938, Baba took the Eastern women, Narina, Rano, and Kitty, to Happy Valley for a picnic. Vishnu accompanied them. On the 13th, Adi's sister, Piroja, had an interview with Baba. Goma Ganesh Patak, a former teacher of the Meher Ashram, saw Baba the same day with Kaka Chinchorkar. Patak sought Baba's financial help to proceed to England for further studies, but Baba later told Vishnu to tactfully refuse him. 2 days later, Tai Bali also requested Baba's monetary assistance, and Baba agreed to help to a limited extent. Ramju met Baba on 14 January, and the next day, Franny and her children, who had been visiting, returned to Nasik. Franny's husband, Rustam, met Baba at Kushru quarters a week later at 5 p.m. on 22 January, and at Meherabad the following day. Rustam was staying in Bombay, where he was working on his film project. Baba was very pleased with the successful progress of Rustam's film, with which Ramju had seen and praised to Baba. Baba assured Rustam of his financial help in 2 of his further ventures through a gift from Elizabeth, and agreed to come to Bombay to support Rustam's distribution efforts. And footnote?
Yes, footnote. The title of the film Rustam produced and directed using the pseudonym of Rukesh was Nigah-e-Kamil, The Perfect Man. It was shot near Gangapur Falls, Nasik. The story revolves around the court intrigue of a poisoned king, a villainous prime minister, and a heroic spiritual prince. The message and mysticism of the East with an appeal to the heart, a saint's message of plain living and high thinking woven around the court intrigue of a state, thrills and excitement of a tiger hunt in thick jungles.
Kaka Chinchorkar had Baba's darshan again on 27 January 1938 and thanked him for his blessing. Chinchorkar had been elected the president of the Ahmednagar municipality in an election held the previous day. Baba came down the hill on Sunday 30 January with Norina, Kitty, and Rano, and took them to the Mad Ashram. Memo and Adi Jr. were visiting, and they went along as well. Baba had sent Kali Mama to Panchgani to lease a bungalow for himself and the women Mandali, as he intended shifting there for the upcoming hot summer months. Panchgani has a much cooler climate than Meherabad during March, April, and May. Baba himself went to Panchgani along with Adi Sr. and Gajanand on Wednesday, 2 February 1938. They arrived in Pune at 9 a.m. and, joined by Chanji, proceeded to Panchgani, arriving at noon. There, Kali Mama showed Baba the different bungalows he had inspected. Baba chose one and made all arrangements for shifting there in March with the women. Baba also visited his cave in Tiger Valley, where Pleader was staying. Baba ordered Pleader to go on pilgrimage to Benares and remain there for 8 months, begging for his food along the way, and to fast for a certain period. And footnote.
Baba further ordered Pleader to sit on a particular bridge in Benares, where Upasni Maharaj had once sat, and not to move from the spot, even if he were ordered to do so by the police. If he were physically moved, he should not resist, but later return quietly to the spot.
Baba then visited the Hindu high school, where he met with the boys of the school and spent the night. He returned to Meherabad the following day.
We shall end the meeting here, so we can maybe stop recording. Yeah.
You have
Betty, can you stop recording? Thanks.
No, I can't actually. Wait a minute. Let me see. I'm not finding it. Oh, stop. Sorry. Okay.